It's the 22nd of December. We're approaching the end of the year and I'm on track to hit my target of 72 books read in the year. I've so far finished 70. Which were the best? Which were my favourite reads? My name is Jim. This is my channel. Books, reading and stuff. Do I look like a monk in this habit with my bald head and the brown? It's Detroit, the Rust City. In previous years at this time of year, I've put out a top 3, my 3 favourite reads of the year. In 2021, my first full year on BookTube, my favourite read was We the Drowned by Carsten Jensen, a Danish maritime novel, historical novel. And second was sort of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, a fantasy set in a world like Japan. And the third was The Devil in the Red Dirt by Michael P. Smith, which was an Australian noir set in the 60s. In 2022, my favourite read was Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield, again another historical fiction set on the River Thames near Oxford. Second was The Perelin Decline by Pae Veo, who was a booktuber at the time. He hasn't posted in a long time. It was a fantastic story set in France and loosely linked with the myth of Sisyphus. And the third was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, who is currently my favourite fantasy author and is the author I've read the most of since I've been on BookTube. Last year, 2023, my favourite book was Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaghy, a tale about the rewilding of Scotland by reintroducing wolves, and I found it a fascinating book. Second was Jamaica a classic by Daphne DuMaurier, set in Cornwall on the moors. It's another historical novel. And third was Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, about 2 computer games developers. This year, 2024, I've finished 70 books. I'm on track to my Goodreads target of 72. Last year I read 100 books, which was over ambitious, and I found myself rushing things, particularly in December. Of those 70 books, 19 I've rated as 5-star reads, and I couldn't limit myself just to a top 3 this year, so I have a top 5. For the YouTube algorithm, a top 10 would probably be better because it likes promoting these top 10 videos. People like top 10 videos. But here are my 5 favourite reads of the year. Let me know in the comments what your favourite reads of the year are, and if you have read any of these, whether you enjoyed them as much as I did. Starting with number 5, this Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This was the last book I finished. It transposes the story of David Copperfield into Appalachia in the 1990s and early 2000s. Appalachia is a very poor region. There's an opioid crisis. Most people, including the kids, are taking pills for various reasons, for pain, for depression, for whatever. But it's a remarkable story, and we follow Demon Copperhead, the David Copperfield type character it's his coming of age story. He's born to a junkie mother. He doesn't have a lot going for him. He's a victim of the foster care system, but he has this resilience and wit, and we're rooting for him and some of the other characters around him like Tommy and Angus, and it's a fantastic read. All of these books I've made 1-minute reviews, and I can link to this one here. Number 4, The Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden. This is the sequel to The Housemaid, which was very popular on BookTok. It's a psychological suspense thriller, and we follow Millie, the protagonist of The Housemaid. Again, she's working as a housemaid for a couple, and she has her suspicions about them. As it's Freida McFadden, we expect a lot of twists. Freida McFadden's the queen of these twists in the tale. One of them I was expecting, one of them I wasn't. The story is very fast-paced. I read it in just 2 sessions, which is what I was looking for, what I was expecting from a Freida McFadden story. And so it was a 5-star read for me, and my 4th favourite read of the year. all of the top 5 books I read as ebooks. Number 3, I do have a physical copy of, but this is the Georgian version. Number 3 was The Eighth Life by Nino Haratashvili. This is a mammoth. This is the longest book I read in 2024. It's the story, it's a generational story going over the 20th century in Georgia with different people from the same family, mostly the women in the family, and the troubles they had, first from when Georgia was under the Tsars to when it was under the communists and Stalin until the recent times. And Georgia is still having problems, hence the flags here. But this was amazing. It was very well written, well researched, and I learnt a lot from this. My second choice, my number 2, has no human characters whatsoever. This was The Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill. This is set in a post-apocalyptic world where the robots are in control. They've wiped out the humans, and most of the robots are part of this one world intelligence where they're all joined to the mainframe, but there's still some renegade robots, some individual robots who are trying to scavenge a living in the Sea of Rust, this area around Michigan, around Ohio, and these areas, trying to scavenge parts to continue existing. It's like a Western, and we're very invested in the central character of Brittle, who is this scavenger robot. She was a caregiver when she had humans, but now she's out for herself and looking for parts to keep going. 4 honourable mentions. These are books which didn't quite make the cut for my top 5, but I rated them 5 stars. I really enjoyed them. No Harm Done by A.J. Liddle. This is a Ramaz Tanadze thriller set in Tbilisi. The writer's from Scotland, but he set the crime here in Tbilisi, and it reads like a Scottish crime novel or like a Scandinavian noir, but set here, which is unusual. Then In the Blink of an Eye, another crime novel by Jo Callahan. This has a human detective paired up with an AI hologram detective, and they're working together on cold cases, and one of the cold cases becomes an active case, and it's fascinating. And Not in My Book by Katie Holt. This is contemporary romance. It's just came out this month. I read it back in September as an ARC. I wanted to see if I could enjoy a contemporary romance, and this one I really did. It's about 2 fledgling writers on a course, and they go from rivals to lovers. There's a lot of the familiar romantic tropes, but it was very well executed. And finally, Recursion by Blake Crouch. This has the idea of false memories, being able to recreate reality, and it's a sci-fi thriller. It's like a cross between Black Mirror and Inception. And now's where we should have the drum roll. Here is my favourite read of 2024, and it's Amelia Hart's Wayward. This got the Goodreads Choice Award last year for historical fiction. It's a story of 3 women over 4 centuries, and they're wayward. They're wayward in the sense of witches, like the witches of Macbeth. And they're from the same family line. One is in Jacobean England in 1619, and she's being tried as a witch, Althea. In 1942, we have Violet, who is a teenager who's very much sheltered in a family estate in Lancashire, and she has very limited contact with the outside world. And in the current times, we have Kate, who's running away from an abusive relationship. She's pregnant, and she's inherited this house from her great aunt that her partner doesn't know about. So she's hoping he doesn't track her down there. Usually when we have 3 timelines in a story, I'm invested in one timeline but not the others. But these, the 3 characters were all strong. I was invested in all their timelines and I wanted to see how it played out. There's a lot of abuse of women in this. It's how they overcome this and how they survive and prosper. So those were my top 5 reads of 2024. As I said, let me know your top reads of 2024, and if you've read these, what you thought of them, whether you enjoyed them like I did or whether they didn't work for you. We all have different tastes, that's fine. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up. This will help me with the YouTube algorithm, and I shall see you on the next video.